All right, welcome everybody. If you're just joining us, we have 41 participants on the line. Again, this is your host, Avi Koshik, and we got to bump this number up because we have our amazing speaker for today, which is none other than Mr. Daine Clark. Now, if you're new to the call or if you haven't heard Daine's story, growing up, Daine grew up doing a lot of farm work, working cows, and as he got older, he took on responsibility in his he followed the footsteps of his father as a roofer, and then started working for the Apple store. And he wasn't your typical extroverted guy out in the front greeting everyone at the Apple store. He was more of the shy guy in the back and counting inventory. So he knew that if he wanted to get ahead in life, that he had to really put himself out there and start developing his relationships and personal speaking skills. So Daine went out there, started looking for different opportunities, and was lucky enough to find Renatus, someone who at the Apple store, which happened to be Mitch Nelson, introduced and told him to come down. And ever since then, Daine has plugged into the system, and he took the business very seriously. And if we fast forward to today, Daine has now raised over $6 million from investors to lend on various real estate transactions. He's grown his team. He's a PIT team member, and he's recognized by Bob Snyder as a key leader in our community. So without further ado, I'd like to bring Daine Clark on the line. So good morning, Daine. How is your morning going today?
Good morning, Avi. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Thank you for being on the call and sharing your wisdom with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm super happy to be here. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. And let's see. Whoop. Share screen. And start. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. And start. All right, cool. We're in. All right, good morning. Let me check the chat here really fast to make sure. Cool, we got a bunch of peeps. Now, today I had a couple of things. I think it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, I had a couple of requests. So I do want to touch on that as well. But this whole concept, and we've all heard this so many times, this whole concept of this, I just learned. Dude, I just had somebody blow my brains yesterday that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to share this. So I want to share that, but also I want to dive into what some of the requests were. So let me give an agenda for today. Today, I'd really like to share this concept of, share this concept of being Puli instead of being pushy. I loved this idea. And secondly, I had the request, Daine, what do you do in your one-on-one? How do you do that? So I've got some really neat things that's really been working. In fact, it worked just yesterday. I had 3 one-on-ones, and all 3 of them put their orders in, all of them, by doing what I'm going to show you today. And I also need to say that if you're new, then obviously this is something that you'll be building into. And if you're a 5-star already, then yes, you want to be building this skill. But the idea is that we're as a whole team, Renatus Nation, essentially, we're building the system where you can keep people going through exposure to exposure to exposure. And I still do that. So I want to make sure that I appeal to whether you're new or if you're if you are a little more seasoned and doing deals and are getting good at developing your one-on-one or sharpening your one-on-one skills. So, but all of us at the end of the day need to be sharpening that one-on-one skill as we're going. So even if you're new, be thinking about that. How can I start building that skill? Because if you look at all the top income earners, that's where they're good. They're good one-on-one, or they're good at building to a meeting. Top incomers are one of those two things, or both. Good at building to meetings, or I should say, or good one-on-ones. Okay. So let me talk about this. So in the light of being a detective, if you've heard me speak before, I love this concept of, I love this concept of every single human being has a relationship to real estate. And so I don't want to focus on this today because some of you probably heard this. Most of us probably have. But if you haven't, really quick, every human being has a relationship to real estate. And my goal, whenever I meet somebody, whenever I talk to somebody, whenever I catch up with somebody, I mean, you name it, whenever I open my mouth with another human and I don't know this yet, what their relationship to real estate is, then I try to find this out. Okay? And so of the 4 boxes I put people in, one of them is a passive investor where they don't have any time. They don't want to put time into real estate, but they do have money. Okay. So no time, but they do have money. The second type of relationship I see people have is that of an active investor, somebody that wants to analyze deals, somebody that wants to actually spend their time doing real estate, somebody that wants to make offers, somebody that wants to analyze deals, somebody that wants to buy rental properties. I consider an owner of a rental property a very active strategy. Even if you have a property management company, a rental is an active investor strategy. And I've noticed that it takes money or not to be an active investor, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to have no money. You can still have money to be an active investor. So either one, doesn't matter. The third type of person is somebody who is in survival mode with real estate. Somebody that wants or needs to unload their real estate. I've noticed it doesn't really matter if they have time. It doesn't really matter if they have money. In fact, if they had money, they probably wouldn't have the problem that they're having that's creating the problem. So essentially, this person needs to unload their real estate. And the last box are people who are just plain old not interested. And you'll notice that every single one of these boxes, with people in these boxes, essentially, every single one of these boxes, the mindset of that person is going to make you, so here's you, talking to these people, finding out which box they're in. Every box is going to make you wealthy in the real estate investing industry. Because these people, who cares if they have time? Who cares if they have money? They don't want to invest in real estate. So in other words, this person is going to be your tenant, and not necessarily the person that you're talking to specifically, but the mindset. So just remember, every time you talk to somebody who's like, oh, you're getting into real estate, like, dude, good luck with that. Or they're negative, in any way, or they're like, dude, I hope you make money. Or dude, call me when you actually make any money. So anybody that's negative, anybody that's just like, yeah, I've been there, done that, I don't want to do that, or even the guy that's like, oh, dude, I already have rental properties. I bought a house and I lived in it for 5 years and then I moved out of it, and now I rent it out, and so I have a rental. Oh, and then I moved a second time, so now I have 2 rentals. Like, so the people that think they know it all and they're not interested, like, these are the people that are going to make you, or the mindsets that are going to make you wealthy, because they're going to be tenants. They're going to buy properties retail. They're going to pay interest, or they're going to call you back. Whoops. They're going to call you back someday and be like, hey, and they always say the same thing. Hey, you still doing that real estate thing that we talked about like 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago? I could not tell you how many people I've had call me back and say those exact words. Hey, you still doing that real estate thing? And then you get to brag a little bit. Because, I mean, face it, if you stay focused in your Renatus business, and you focus on, you get your education done, you start taking your action, and you fail a little bit, and then you have your success, and then you fail a little bit, and you have a little more success. I mean, believe me, people are going to see it, and when they call you back, they're going to be like, dude, I should have done that when back when you reached out to me forever ago. So anyway, all 4 boxes are going to make you wealthy. All right. So in the light of being a detective, usually I try to just let this happen naturally, but I learned something yesterday that just, like I said, blew my freaking mind of how you can get referrals or find out very quickly what this person is. So in the same light, if you've ever heard me do this before, what you do is step one to find out what relationship this person is you ask about them. Okay. So form, we've all heard this, and I've changed the last one to P. So family. You ask them about family. You ask them about occupation. I actually usually go in this order: family, occupation, and recreation. And other than work, what are you most passionate about? So you start asking them those questions, and they will create the opportunity where, as they're telling you about something about their family, as they're telling you about their occupation or recreation, whatever it is, then you stop and you say, oh my gosh, OMG, have you ever considered getting into real estate investing? Because of what they said. If they're like, oh yeah, we got 3 kids, we just had a new one, and I start saying like, dude, that's crazy, man, kids are expensive. You start relating to them. I got my own kids, how are they doing this? Like, dude, when I had my second kid, I was like, man, I should start looking to make extra money. Have you ever considered getting involved in real estate investing? Like, I've used that very phrase to see if somebody's interested. Okay. So anyway, first step is you ask. Second step is you tie it into real estate. So another way that I just learned yesterday on how to dive into this question is this, and this will be a little bit more, instead of trying to do this naturally, this would be a little bit more like you're calling them because, so again, this OMG principle, you're calling them because something else reminded you of them. Yeah. So here's the script. In fact, here, let me see if I can just copy and paste this over. Let's see, it hasn't updated yet. So my notes, let me just do this. So I'll type this up. So if anybody wants to use this, they are more than welcome to. So let's do this. So essentially you call somebody up, but first you start making a small list, of the people that you look up to in Renatus. Okay. So make a list of the people that you look up to, in Renatus. Then what did those people do professionally before? Okay. So you look at like a Nate Lambert, used to be a professor. So essentially what you do is if you know Nate Lambert's story, Nate was a guy that used to teach psychology at a big college, and he got bored. He's actually very good at what he did, very well known, and did, published, I can't remember what the stats are, but published more articles than other people in his field. So very well known, and he just got bored, and he knew that he'd hit a cap on the income that he would be able to make as a professor, and so he started looking, and so he actually went in and did a couple of things in other real estate groups, and it just never stuck and never really did anything for him. And then he found Renatus, And now Nate's flipped up to 14 homes at a time. So essentially what you would do now is think of every single person you know that is a teacher, that is a professor. So if I was doing this for myself, I'd start making a list of people you know who used to be in the same, or are in, used to be, or are in the same field. Okay, so that's step 3. Ooh. Step 1. And then you just call those people and say, dude, you don't have to say dude if you don't want to. That's just my, use your own personality, obviously, but bro, or anyway, you get it. I just met someone that does, and let's do it like this, your profession. That recently got into real estate and is killing it, making some massive cash on the side. Okay, so that's how you throw the hook out, but you're not pushy. You're a little bit more pulley. Okay, and so here's what you do after this. Okay, so if I was going to do this, for example, if I were to start making a list of all the people I know that are in the education, and they are an educator, I got a few people that come to mind right off the bat. A lady named Brooke, that when I was a little kid, she was a school teacher at the elementary that I went to. And then as I graduated and, went up to high school and things like that, I was best friends with her son. And so anyway, so if I were to call up Brooke, I'm actually going to do this. If I were to call up Brooke, I'd be like, hey, how's it going? I'll talk to Brooke in probably, 3 years. And how's it going? How's your kids? She got grandkids now, just had a new grandkid actually, so catch up, family, right? And then just talk a little bit more, shoot the bull, like how's work going? How's school? And then if she didn't create the opportunity for me to be like, oh my gosh, Brooke, have you ever considered getting involved in real estate? I'd say just this. Like, Brooke, oh my gosh. One of the reasons I called is I just met a guy, his name's Nate. He used to be an educator down at BYU at a college. And he started getting into real estate while he was still working, just because he didn't see a way for him to work himself out of that job and retire anywhere in the near future. And so he decided he wanted to get into real estate. And so now he's been flipping houses, and he'll flip a few houses and turn that money and buy a rental. And he's done up to 14 deals at the same time. And I've been watching him. Hey, so step 6. Hey, you don't happen to know any teachers or educators, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to know any educators that would be interested in doing stuff like that on the side, would you? Bam. They are going to tell you at that very moment, they are going to tell you which box they're in. So your detective work is done at this point. And all you have to do, I should say, at this point is do the appropriate thing, depending on which box they're in. Because number one, they're going to tell you, oh, I'm actually interested. I actually have been thinking about that. And, in fact, they're going to tell you a story. And then you just get to go along and say, oh my gosh, that's so cool. When did you decide? when did you decide that real estate was a good idea? Like, man, I wish we would have talked about this sooner. And then you start talking to them about that real estate stuff, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to a meeting with some other real estate investors because I've decided to try and network with other investors and surround myself with other people. I'm going to be going to a meeting on Thursday night or Wednesday night or Tuesday night or whatever. Why don't you tag along? I've been learning some cool stuff. It's making so much sense what these guys are doing. I just learned how to pay a house off in like a third of the time. And wherever you are, be honest. Like, I actually got myself set up to follow what they were teaching on this. They call it velocity banking. You know, it's hard to explain. So just come and learn with me. Okay? Or oh my gosh, I just learned how to pay a house or buy a house cash. You know, whatever it is. Okay. And so you get them to the appropriate thing, or they're going to be like, oh yeah, maybe they've got money. Maybe. Anyway, you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. The concept of this is a quick way to either get to where this person's relationship lies in real estate, or referrals right off the bat. I mean, super, super cool because either people are thinking about or have thought about getting into real estate, or they know people who have. So by doing this, yeah, you might get them in the not interested box, but now they know you're looking for people that are interested. So if anybody ever talks, so let's say I talk to Brooke and she's like, Daine, I've never really thought about it actually. But, and typically if somebody's not interested themselves, then they'll be like, yeah, I don't really know anybody, but by golly, the next time somebody talks to Brooke and she wasn't interested in what I was doing or what I had, then she's going to think of me and be like, you know what? I know a guy. This happens all the time. Now I just figured out how to design it. But she's going to be like, yeah, I know a guy. You should meet my friend Daine. Apparently he's been doing something about real estate and was real excited about it. So maybe you ought to talk. So that idea essentially is figuring out a way to be a little bit Puli. You drop those line items, you drop those intrigue things, and you even ask for referrals and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, without actually telling them I'm looking for you. You say, hey, this is what I'm looking for in general. You don't make it personal. And it's going to be very, very disarming to not only figure out which box that person is in and what they have chosen their real estate investing or their relationship to real estate investing is going to be, or they're going to send you referrals. Send you some awesome referrals. Cool. So if you guys caught that, screenshot that, copy paste it. This is being recorded, so go back and refresh that. But that is a good idea. I'll tell you that right now. So anyway, I had some questions I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, about, Daine, what do you do in your one-on-ones? How do I structure that? So surprisingly, it's actually not that different from what the follow-up is in even our back end. So the follow-up slides that I helped co-develop with Renatus and some of the other leaders there. So I actually don't do it much differently than that presentation. So if you want my structure, bullet points basically, I start out by getting to know them. Okay, make it all about them. The first thing I ask them is this question. And I say, let's see, A. And I ask them, all right, let's say that you and I decided that it's a good idea to work together. Yeah, so we work together, over a year, and this would be the first of many years that we work together. But you and I sit down. Okay, so picture you and me. We're sitting down 1 year from today. Okay, and I start writing out 1 year vision as I'm talking. Okay, so I say, picture yourself sitting down with me 1 year from today, I don't know where we are, but maybe we're sitting in front of like one of your deals in the driveway. Okay. And so I get them to visualize they're in a deal. They're a year in. They're talking to me. Okay. And I say, all right, you got it? So 1 year from today, we're sitting down at one of your deals. And we're just reviewing, basically just throwing it back. Like, oh my gosh, like this happened, having fun. Now, you in this, sit down, you're also telling me, oh my gosh, Daine, I need to get a better expletive, don't I? Oh, holy Daine, I have had the best year of my life. I made the best decision. I mean, this working together has been the best decision that I've ever made other than choosing my spouse. Okay. So 1 year vision, I say, all right, now, come back to today. What would have to happen between today and a year from today, July of 2020, for you to say something like that working together was the best decision you ever made? Okay. So, and then I write down a number one and I say, go. Okay. So again, that question is, what would have to happen between today and a year from now for you to be telling me that working together was the best decision you ever made, minus choosing your spouse, if they're married? If they're not married, then best decision they've ever made. Okay. And then I just start writing, whatever it is that they say. Most people say things like, I did this 3 times yesterday. Most people say that, oh, this would all be worth it. Or I would be able to know this is the best deal or best decision that I made if I had done a deal. And I make it past tense like that, like it already happened. So in that meeting, I'm telling you, Daine, I did a deal and I made money in that first year. The second thing is, and I write down 2. I say, all right, what else? I usually go for about 3. Okay, so done a deal. A lot of people say, oh, I paid off debt. A lot of people say stuff like that. Okay. And as they give me more like financial things, I say, all right, give me a personal one. Don't make it about money. Don't make it about, just something that you want to do, something that you want to have, something that you want to become, whatever it is. Give me a personal one for you. And oftentimes when people will say things like travel, I've heard people say things like dream vehicle, but surprisingly, this one's not as often, the dream vehicle. Mostly I hear stuff like travel. Oftentimes I hear just time with family, things like that. Okay. So anyway, I just make sure they give me a personal one. And I mean, with one guy yesterday, like he gave me a bunch of things. Like he just knew what he wanted. And so I wrote down like 5 things, but typically I go to about 3. Yeah. So that's the first step is I say, all right, picture yourself a year from now and so on and so forth. And I get them to tell me. Okay. Then I say, cool. And then I dive right in to the 3-phase plan that they've come out with, where you got your learning paths and all that kind of stuff. So I dive right into the 3-phase plan and basically just tell them, let's see, who we got? Somebody's off mute. Somebody want to say something? Jason Fulmer, are you off mute for a reason, or do you want me to mute you? Cool, I'll go ahead and mute that. All right, a couple of chats. Daine, can you go back? Yeah, Sherry, I'll do that. All right, in just a second. Okay, so step 2. I draw out this line. Oh, let me back that up. I draw out this line and I say, all right, here's what I've seen be the most successful when somebody's getting started. Okay, now obviously somebody's already seen the presentation. They already know it costs $20,000. They already know the name Renata, all that stuff. Okay, so I say, all right, let's get real, and I just tell people essentials. I have seen it. I've seen it way more successful, more times than any, when people go through their essentials first. And what I mean by that is all the stuff that has to do with keeping your wealth. So all the things that essentially if you're going to get some big fat cows or chickens, then you need to make sure that you have a very strong fence around your, coop or around your field before you put your fat cows out to pasture. Okay. Build a strong fence before you put the fat cows out to pasture. And so essentially this is stuff like taxes, because taxes are going to change. Taxes are going to change if you add real estate to your tax return, especially if you do real estate as a business. So understanding the basics of these couple of things is going to be crucial in your real estate business. Because and I'll share like an example of a deal. Look at this deal where the investor is going to cash a $30,000 check or $20,000, whatever it is, where the investor is projecting to cash a $30,000 check. And when it's all said and done, that's going to affect your taxes. If you, and again, I help them envision themselves. If you are going to cash a $30,000 check from a real estate deal, your taxes are going to change. So understanding what to do with that money so that you don't have to give a third of that to Uncle Sam right off the bat. Okay, so, and learning how to, and depending on their situation, you can customize this. If you've never started a business before, then you're going to start spending that money on what we call personal conversion expenses. And I just talk about things that Mark Kohler teaches in his class. So essentially you're going to start learning how to turn your whole life into a tax deduction. Your cell phone, you already own your car, you already have a little space in your house that you can use as an office space and call it your home office and your principal place of business. So you start writing that off, you start writing this off, and you start writing, and so you start spending that money on things you're already buying anyway, but now you're using those things to run your business. So you start writing that stuff off. And then if you want to grow your business, you're going to spend some more stuff. And so you start writing things off and learning how to structure the business and protect yourself and things like that. And especially learning how these things correlate with each other. Because if you want to go after specific tax strategies that you learn, then it's going to affect how your business is, or vice versa. If you have certain things you want to do in business or structure yourself as business, as corps and LLCs and trusts and all this kind of stuff, then it's actually going to affect your taxes. Okay, so how these things coordinate. The next thing is banking. Okay, so essentially we start going through the 4 pillars. Is banking. So you want to become a master at how banks work. And you guessed it, if you make certain tax decisions, it's going to affect your banking, especially as an entrepreneur. It's going to affect your banking. That how you structure business basically and your taxes are going to affect that. And then a huge thing as well, like if you're going to use banks like to see your credit. Nowadays, if you just go get a checking account at a credit union, more often than not, they're going to pull your credit anyway. So understanding, and not just the score, but the credit report, how your report should look, or how banks are going to look at your report is going to be important. And if you make credit decisions, that's actually going to affect your banking. And certain banking decisions are going to affect your credit. And tax decisions are going to, or banking or credit decisions could affect your taxes. And vice versa. Okay. So anyway, what I say is all these things are related, and as you make decisions in one, it's going to affect the other. So understanding how to create that relationship of what you want from these things. Okay. And then I say, notice that none of this is even real estate investing related yet. And then I say, all right, now we get into some real estate stuff. Okay. And I usually call it real estate 101. So you're gonna learn some basics. You're gonna learn, things and essentials are gonna be like how to find a deal, how to roll your retirement account over to invest that money into a deal. Okay. And I say, all right, referencing the classes, deal of the decade, real estate marketing that they're re-recording right now, real estate foundations, those classes. Essentially, they're gonna be teaching how to find deals. And I break this up and I say, based on your personality, you're gonna want to pick. I mean, you're gonna want to learn all these things, so just so you have a basic understanding and can talk competently to somebody else with whatever one you do. But here's the basics. So if you, and this is based on your personality. So if you are going to be the type of person that is a DIY deal finder, then what you're going to do is get very good at talking to the homeowner directly. You're going to knock on some doors. You're going to make some calls. So if you're good and you're that type of person that likes to meet people and build rapport, you know, it's a rare breed, but very, very doable. It is a skill that can be developed. But essentially, there's multiple ways to do this. You know, foreclosures, divorce, probate, people inheriting old, ugly houses and a mortgage payment at the same time. And I usually try to crack a few jokes. Like, dude, nobody wants to inherit an ugly house that comes with a mortgage payment. They want to get rid of that thing, right? Get their inheritance. So you'll be opening those conversations yourself with those types of people. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people that make a lot of money in getting good at opening that kind of conversation with people like that. Okay. So there's multiple ways to DIY. Now, let's say you are a little bit less apt to go out and meet people like that. Then you can hire people. Okay. And so there's multiple ways to do this as well. Now, if you are going to hire people, it is smart to know the DIY stuff, so you know what you're doing. So you know what you're hiring. Okay. So hiring is going to be people like wholesalers, people like bird dogs. So all these things are included in the essentials classes, ideas that they give you. Hugh Zaretsky, Chris Albin, you know, between those two, these are just things that I've pulled out of those classes. Okay. So if you haven't seen those, watch them. An educated investor is always the most impressive, even if you haven't done deals yet, but you're just getting started. An educated person in real estate investing, or an educated investor essentially, is going to be the most impressive. So watch your classes. Okay. So hire people is the second one. Okay. And so that's what you'll do. Hire, you know, realtors. There's very specific ways to do on-market deals, off-market deals when you're hiring, that kind of stuff. And the third is referrals. This is where, and I actually set this up like this as referrals, where I talk about how these are the people that this is the strategy where you get to sit on the couch and eat potato chips, and people call you because there's a deal and they need your help. So, and I basically relate it to like the medical field. Hey, you know anybody in the medical field? And everybody's like, oh yeah, I know somebody who's like a nurse or, you know, whatever. I say, cool. When you know this person, maybe you've done this before, but can you imagine what kind of calls that person gets from their friends, from their close family members? And I basically start giving them an example, like somebody calls them and be like, hey, you're a nurse. I just did something with my foot. My foot, every time I walk on it, makes a funny creaky noise, and it like spews some stuff out every time. It squishes out, and it's starting to look like Abraham Lincoln's face a little bit because it's grown, you know. And so just trying to make it funny, but at the same time teach them that concept that essentially you are the guy or gal that can help anybody that's interested in real estate. Okay. So just like people that are in the medical field, their friends and family call them because they have medical questions and things like that. You want to plant the seed in people's mind that you are the real estate person. And that if anything real estate related pops up in somebody's mind, you want to be that person that they call. Yeah. So there's multiple ways to do this, but you'll learn all of these ways, and that's what we like to call phase one. Okay. And then I draw a line. I draw a line this way too, and I say, cool. So this is the educational aspect for this, right? you saw the real estate investor education on, Thursday or Wednesday, or, house tour, video, webinar, you name it. And I'll actually do this sometimes, or oftentimes even over Zoom, met with people all across the country and just do a Zoom meeting like this. And I say, all right, so that's the educational aspect, like the real estate investor education you saw on the, webinar, video, whatever. But there's a people aspect to real estate. This is where most people go wrong when they're just getting started, or when they've done a few deals and they want to do more, when they want to scale. So it is so crucial while you're getting started to create peers in the real estate investing world. Okay, so essentially in that phase one, you're going to want to start making friends. Now, let me tell you about what Renatus has created, and just talk about the communities. And I always joke and I say, because everybody knows what church is, or they've seen a church, or maybe stepped foot inside of a church before. So makes a good analogy. Even if they don't have a good relationship with church, they know what church is, at least. So you can make this analogy. So you can be like, yeah, like I like to joke and say that what they've created is well, essentially real estate church. I mean, think about it. What happens when you go to church? I mean, everybody shows up, and everybody's just like a volunteer army when they show up there, and everybody cares about everybody. They show up every single week, and they linger longer afterwards, and you got all these people just chatting until midnight after these meetings. So essentially, what Renatus has created is this opportunity to make all these friends in the real estate investing world. And the benefits that you get from friends in real estate, I mean, people just to talk to and bounce ideas off of each other. I mean, that alone, I mean, you could read a book, but who are you going to bounce ideas off of? Like, you got to have people. You got to have people that want to talk to you about real estate. So peers in real estate are going to give you ideas to bounce off of each other. They're going to give you stories. So as you're learning, you hear other people's actual stories and things that you're learning, and be like, oh my gosh, that worked for him. And this is how he did it. Like, why not me? Right? This gives you a huge proof of concept, because you got friends doing what you're learning. Okay. And so you get stories from them. You'll get connections. So, I mean, it's not uncommon to go to start networking with other investors and asking questions like, hey, who do you use for this or that and the other? So getting connections, getting and passing deals back and forth. I mean, just showing up and being and people will often be like, hey, I got one. I got a deal. I don't know what to do with it, but I need some help. And so if you've got other relationships, then you can share in those resources, or whatever it is, or money, crews. I mean, you name it. Okay. So essentially, you ever heard the concept of it takes a village? Same thing applies. Like, it takes a village to have fast success in real estate investing, wherever you want to go. If you want to scale because you've done a few deals, or if you want to do this, or if you want to do your very first deal. I talk about peers. Okay, I need to change colors. So next, phase 2. This is more build your wealth. We call this AIT, or Accelerated Investor Training. And I really just talk about what they're going to learn, because they're going to pick a track. They're going to pick a track, and the best advice I've ever heard is you just pick one track, you focus on that one thing, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff in the bonus. Okay, so they pick their track, as well as a bunch of things out of the bonus track at the very bottom. And that is what's going to really give them a leg up, because they're going to learn the good tips and tricks and strategies for that type of real estate: fix and flips, rentals, commercial, you name it, apartment complexes, flipping apartment complexes, flipping dirt. I mean, whatever it is. Okay. So essentially, they're going to learn strategies. They're going to learn how to mitigate their risk. Risk usually comes from people related things like hiring contractors or partners or whatever it is, or risk comes from the actual real estate market, because the market goes up and down and up and down. And so mitigating risk with those two things, or in those two things, is going to be crucial. Okay. So, let's see, mitigating risk, analyzing deals. Like, this is a crucial point. This is where a lot of people lose money. So figuring out ways to analyze deals so that every offer you make is one that you're going to make money. Okay. So learning how to run those numbers. And then the bonus track, learning how to create partnerships. Because if you need any other resource that you don't have yourself, then you're probably going to have to partner with it or hire it or, I mean, really the two main ways is hire somebody else that has the resource, or you partner with it. And so learning how to create those partnerships, learning how to creatively finance your deals. If you don't want to use your credit, then this is where you'll learn stuff like that. Learning how to negotiate real estate deals. So if you've seen your Renatus Education lineup, you'll notice that I'm really just referencing specific classes and just telling them how cool it is, basically how cool the things they're going to learn are. Okay, so negotiation. Okay, anyway, so I list off all these things they're going to learn, and I say, all right, in phase 2, it's time to start building your team. Okay, this is where it gets real. You're going to need a CPA. You're going to need an attorney. And if you already have these things, then great. A lot of things they'll teach you are how to just interview your current one, and you'll know very quickly based on the questions that you ask if you've got a good one or if it's time to upgrade. Okay, and either way, it's not wrong if it's time to upgrade. But attorney, CPA, inspector, insurance agent, contractor, title agent, subcontractors, depending on how, your relationship, essentially, how active you want to be in managing the project or a little more hands off. Let's see, what am I missing? Title agent, got that. Maybe a realtor. Essentially all of the licensed people, and the list goes on, okay? Because I can never remember all the things. So I usually just list a few and then just make a list, that makes it look like it's, the list is long, because it really is. You use a lot of different professionals on your team, on your real estate team. Usually on your specific real estate team, you've got room for one person. Most people won't have 5 CPAs or 5 inspectors or 5 insurance agents, whatever. I mean, you could have multiple attorneys, because attorneys are kind of like specialist doctors. So maybe you have an attorney for structuring, you have an attorney for taxes, you have an attorney for, notes, you have an attorney for LLCs, whatever it is. Okay. But anyway, and then I make this so personal, because I say, all right, so here's the key. And I say, depending on if you're local to the local community here, or if you are abroad, I mean, it doesn't matter. You essentially want to have people that you open up that conversation and say, hey, I'm just getting started. How, and this is oftentimes where a lot of the hand holding is going to take place by these people, because when you close your first deal and you're using your professionals, like, yeah, your peers can help and be like, oh, you need a CPA, or, oh, you need an inspector, a contractor. Okay. But oftentimes it's creating that relationship with the team member, realtor, subcontractor, title agent, contractor, insurance, whatever it is, and saying, hey, I'm getting started and I need to know what you need from me, if we're going to do some business together. So can you give me an idea of what it looks like to work with you if I get a deal? Okay, so you create that. So essentially, and I'll just start listing names and say, so if you're someone like me doing deals in my neighborhood, then you're going to want, maybe a relationship with Mark, maybe a relationship with Matt, referencing Matt Sorensen, maybe a relationship with Parrish as my inspector. Let's see, insurance agent Kyle. So I make it personal by just listing names. And even if if names don't come to the top of my head, I just start putting names in here. The contractor, you got Steve, and title agent, Christina. Okay. And so you start going down the list. Realtor, Alan, subcontract, whatever. So you start going down the list and you start putting names in there. Okay. Cause now they're like, okay, it'll start clicking for them. Okay. I say, all right, next, turn it off. You've gone through a bunch of real estate investor education at this point. You've been making connections with friends and team members. And now all we're going to do is do. We're just going to do it. Okay. So we're going to find deals. Let's see, we're almost top of the hour. So we have to pick this up another day. We're going to find deals that we learned how to do there. We're going to analyze deals that we learned how to do there and there and there. Analyze. And literally, I've seen it. The smartest thing I've seen is people practicing this, like having a goal of analyzing like 100 deals in this time frame, because you will get so dang good at analyzing deals if you do that. If you do it multiple times, it's like a muscle. Okay, so in phase 3, and then we're making offers. Okay, and you just start making offers. And to the point where you'll want to start shooting offers out of an air cannon as you drive down the street. I mean, you want to make tons of offers. Again, muscle memory, right? Because look at this. Every single person is either an auditory learner, a visual learner, or a kinesthetic, which means hands-on. And so Renatus has created this perfect balance of audible, hands-on, and visual learning. Okay, because believe me, as you go through this education and listen to it audibly and watch it visually, and you get into the field where it's time to get some hands-on, get your hands dirty a little bit and feet wet. The things that you learned, the things that you heard people say, because you've got friends now in real estate, the things that you heard people say as your professionals, let's see, inspector, whatever it is, the things that you heard, your brain is going to bring those to your remembrance. And you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember, somebody, whoever, I can't tell you how many times I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember Chris Albin talking about this, or Hugh Zaretsky, or Ben and Heather Echeverria in the fix and flip day 1 and day 2. Like, yeah, oh yeah. Okay. So anyway, you'll make a bunch of offers. Somebody's going to say yes. And when they do, instead of being like me, when I was new and I got my first yes, I just had a panic attack. Because, I learned a few things, watched a few classes, and started taking action. And I was like, oh, now what? When somebody said yes, I said, yeah, I'll buy your house. I'll pay cash. I'll pay $250,000 cash. We'll close in 2 weeks. And then they're like, okay. I was like, anyway, no, watch this. The script, I'm going to give you the script right now. I got one. That's what you're going to say. And because, notice this perfect succession of learning and making connections. So when you get to this point and somebody says yes to your offer, then you say, I got one to Mark, Matt, Parrish, Kyle, Steve, Christina, Alan. And so you call your professionals and be like, I got one. I need some help. Mark, I need some, I'm going to have to set stuff. We're going to be buying stuff. We're going to be buying stuff for this house. And I need to get some bookkeeping going and get ready to file taxes on my LLC, because we're going to buy stuff, man. We're going to need some accounting. And you call Matt and be like, I got one. I need an LLC, Matt. We're going to create a partnership, and I'm going to come in this way and he's going to come in that way. And we're going to create that, so we've already had that conversation that you told me that I should have before I even call you and create a partnership. And so you call him and say, I got one. You call him Parrish to say, I got one. I need you to come out and inspect this thing and make sure that I'm not going to get myself in trouble, because, anyway, so you guys get the idea. So I start doing that with them. And I say, and of course you're going to call your friends. You call your buddies and friends and be like, hey guys, I got one. Okay. And then you start telling those stories. Okay. Of how you did it, tell the story of how you got your first deal. So anyway, now you're thinking like a CEO. Now, when you close on that first real estate deal, you've got your team working on the deal. And let's just say, and I'll do this, let's just say that you're going to use fix and flips as an example. Okay. So you're going to flip a house. And so your goal is to own this for 4 months. Okay. Your goal is to own this for 4 months, and we're right at the top of the hour, so I'm going to have to move. And you're going to cash your first check. Okay? Now, at that point, you get to decide, what do you want to do with that money? Do you want to go do another deal? Do you want to do another flip? Do you want to take that and put that into something that's going to give you a monthly cash flow? You know, you get to choose whatever you want to do. You want to go back to the drawing board and learn a different strategy, rentals or apartment complexes. But here's the thing. Let me ask you this. Does this make sense to you? Do you like the idea? And I ask them that question. And at that point, they're closed. They're in. I've never had anybody say, no, this doesn't look like a good idea. Like, this is stupid. I've never had anybody say that. I've always had somebody be like, yeah, this makes sense. Totally makes sense. I like the idea. But yeah, I like it. Okay. And then I'll basically from there, and I don't have time to do this, but essentially I'll pull up the Renatus funding options. So it's in the disclosure packet. It's in Helios, okay? But Renatus funding options. And then I'll say, all right, here's what most people do to get started in real estate. And I'll literally just go through the funding options with them and say, all right, so Renatus has, you know, cash, credit, using your funding assessment with Credit Nerds, 401k, insurance, UGA, okay, all these different ideas. And I'll go through it with them. And they can even just read it. Be like, here, read this, read this, read this. Here's those ideas. So based on the things that, you know, we just learned, which one? You know, which one do you want to do? And then they pick it. Oh, it's just so awesome how compliant this is. So they pick whichever one. They're like, oh, let's do this one. Like, cool. Let me get you the connections. And let's do that. So, and then from there, essentially it's just, all right, let's go do that. Let's put your order in. Okay. Oh, sorry. I forgot. Step 1, create your account. I'll tell them this, you know, oh, this makes sense to you. You like the idea? Cool. Step 1, create your account. Step 2 is let's pick a funding option. Okay. So I'll actually create their account. I'll put their order in that moment. And then we'll go to step 2 and be like, all right, let's go through this and you pick the one you want. Okay. Step 3 is once we have the funding, then we're going to unlock your education. And day 1 starts. When you unlock education, green means go. Cool. All right. So everybody, sorry, we went a little bit over 9:02. I'll go ahead and end it right there. Maybe next week we'll have some follow-up questions on this and we'll dive into another strategy. But thank you all for staying with me all the way to 9. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and I'll see you guys next week.